which I'm going to show you is intramitral ring, which is extremely rare. Then the rings could be two types. One is a supravalvular ring where the membrane is just at the level of the mitral annulus, which is obviously below the left atrial appendage, and you have an intramitral ring where the mitral valve leaflets from atrial sides are actually having that membrane and causing obstruction. This is an extremely rare form of LV inflow obstructions. So showing you this case, this is a case where you have a double inlet ventricle. You see the inlet from the left atrium and the right atrium going into that single ventricle, and here you see the single ventricle receiving both the blood flows. And this ventricle type, is it an LV type, RV type, or intermediate or indeterminate type? This is a coarsely trabeculated ventricle on the right side and a finely trabeculated ventricle on the left side. This forms a category of the intermediate or indeterminate type of a single ventricle. Again, single ventricle, double inlet, but kind of focusing on the left side. What you see here is a membrane which is superior or proximal to the left atrial appendage and a distal to the pulmonary vein, and this is a called triatriatum, which is non-obstructing. There's a large gap and a hole between it, but that's not what the pathology is causing problem. The problem is here. You see the mitral valve, you see the anterior mitral leaflet, posterior mitral leaflet, and you see a membrane right in the middle of the mitral leaflets. And if you see on a color Doppler, you see very nicely the PISA coming at the level of the membrane, intramitral membrane, and the regurgitation is coming from the mitral valve tips. So both are happening at a distance between each other, and you see there is no flow obstruction at the triatriatum level. So by far this is a double inlet left ventricle or indeterminate type or RV type of a single ventricle. There is a non-obstructing triatriatum. Then you have an intramitral ring. Let's dig deep into the intramitral ring, and here you see on a zoomed view we have no doubts that there is a membrane which is holding the middle part of the mitral valve, causing an obstruction, and you see there is a PISA which is coming right at the place where the membrane is. So this is an intramitral membrane or intramitral ring causing congenital mitral stenosis. In this patient, there was an aorta which was lying superiorly, and this one is the pulmonary artery which is showing regurgitation. This is pulmonary artery dilated regurgitation. This is aorta, and both these vessels are arising from that single ventricle of indeterminate variety or intermediate variety. And if you see on a cross section, you see the aorta is to the left and anterior of the pulmonary artery, which defines that apart from the double inlet ventricle, quadratum and intramitral ring, there is a demalposition of the great arteries. Now see this on a 3D view. You see this a kind of a shelf or a membrane inside the mitral leaflet. That is the annulus, but this is right here in the middle of the mitral leaflet, and very interesting and good view. What you see on the three-dimensional end-face view and fast view of the both inflows, you see the tricuspid valve, the RV inflow is seen very clearly, while the mitral inflow is not seen because the mitral valve is opening, but you can't see the ventricle side from this side. You can't see an atrial side from this side because the membrane is kind of obstructing your view. Notice here you have a tricuspid valve leaflets which are opening. You see the mitral valve leaflets are opening well. Right in the middle you have the membrane which is intramitral membrane. What is intramitral membrane? it is a structure in between the two, the atrial side of the two leaflets. You notice very carefully that there is no doming. That was the very first clue which made me suspect an intramitral ring. There is no doming. There is holding of the middle part of the valves. Now, if this is normal opening of the valve, once you have a commissural fusion or a submitral apparatus problem, there would be doming because the mitral leaflets are held by that pathology and the rest of the leaflets actually dome due to pressure. But what happens in intramitral ring, there is no doming. Now there is a holding of the middle of the valve leaflets, which does not cause, because there is no holding, there is no obstruction at the level of the orifice of the mitral valve, so it is not doming. So this actually gives you an immediate clue that this is an intramitral ring. You again notice here that in intramitral ring there is no doming. These two leaflets distal part are almost straight opening into the left ventricle. So this ring is a thin membrane, and many people have started describing supramitral and intramitral rings because there could be a mixture of these two in a given case. They call it annuloleaflet mitral ring. And this is one study where they published 26 cases with a larger series which they analyzed retrospectively and collected from the data. So that means if there is less than 100 cases in the world literature reported, this is extremely rare situation. And this could be a part of a shown complex. Let me tell you, the intramitral ring is more likely to be associated with other obstructive problems. The supramitral ring can be solitary. Next video on a YouTube, I'm going to show you a supramitral ring. Again, how would you come to know I'm going to show you a new video? You please subscribe so that the moment I push another video, you would be immediately notified. Happy learning. Bye till then.